the Labour Party that's standing up for working people to improve the lives of all. It's the establishment versus the people. It's our historic duty to make sure the people prevail. Much of the media and the establishment are saying this election is a foregone conclusion. They think there are rules in politics which, if you don't follow by doffing your cap to the powerful people, accepting that things can't really change, then you can't win. But of course, they do not want us to win, because when we win, it is the people, not the powerful, who win. The nurse, the teacher, the small trader, the carer, the builder, the office worker, the student win. We all win. It's the establishment that complains, I don't play by the rules, by which they mean their rules. We can't win, they say, when we don't play their game. We don't fit in their cosy club. We're not obsessed with the tittle-tattle of Westminster or Brussels. We don't accept that it is natural for Britain to be governed by a ruling elite, the city and the tax dodgers. We don't accept that the British people just have to take what they're given, that they don't deserve better. And in a sense, the establishment and their camp followers in the media are quite right. I don't play by their rules. And if a Labour government is elected on the 8th of June, we won't play by their rules either. They are yesterday's rules set by failed political and corporate elites. We should be consigning to the past. It is these rules that have allowed a cosy cartel to rig the system in favour of a few powerful and wealthy individuals and corporations. It's a rigged system set up by the wealth extractors for the wealth extractors. But things can, and they will, change. Britain needs a Labour government that is prepared to fight for people in every part of the country, our towns, villages, as well as big cities. A Labour government that isn't scared to take on the cosy cartels that are hoarding this country's wealth for themselves. It needs a government to invest in people's lives in every community, to build a better future for every person who lives here. Because the Conservatives, drunk on a failed ideology, are hell-bent on cutting every public service they can get their hands on. And they will use all the divide and rule tactics of the Linton Crosby trade to keep their rigged system intact. Don't be angry at the privateers profiting from our public services, they whisper. Be angry instead at the migrant worker just trying to make a better life. Don't be angry at government ministers running down our schools and hospitals, they tell us. Be angry instead at the disabled woman or the unemployed man. It's the rigged economy the Tories are protecting that Labour is committed to challenging. We will not let the elite extract wealth from the pockets of ordinary working people any longer. So many people in modern Britain do what seems like the right thing to do. They get jobs. They spend all day working hard. They save to buy their own home. They raise children. They look after elderly or sick relatives. And yet, at the end of it, they get almost nothing left over as a reward. Compare their lives with the multinational corporations and the gilded elite who hide their money in the Cayman Islands because the Conservatives are too morally bankrupt to take them on and collect the taxes. Labour will end this racket and make sure that everyone pays their taxes which fund our public services. We will overturn the rigged system. For all Theresa May's warm words on the steps of Downing Street, the Conservatives will never do any such thing. 7 years of broken promises show us that. On pay, frozen. The deficit, the NHS, our schools, our environment. It was their wealthy friends in the city who crashed our economy. How dare they ruin the economy with their recklessness and greed and then punish those who had nothing to do with it. It was not pensioners, nurses, the lower average paid workers or carers who crashed the economy. We know who did that. The Conservatives boast of record numbers of jobs. But what good is it if people are working and getting poorer and don't share in the profits of that economy, while the Conservatives look after the wealthy few? Our offer is to tackle elderly poverty and loneliness, invest in our economy, National Health Service and schools, to improve rights at work and a £10 living wage for all workers. Britain is the 6th richest economy in the world, and the people of Britain must share in that wealth. If I were Southern Rail, or if I were Philip Green, I'd be worried about a Labour government. I really would. If I were Mike Ashley, or the CEO of a tax-avoiding multinational corporation, I'd want to see a Tory victory. I really would. Why? Because those are the people who are monopolising the wealth that should be shared by each and every one of us in the whole country. Everyone, and I mean everyone, has a contribution to make and a life to lead. Poverty and homelessness are a disaster for the individual, but they're also a loss for all of us, of that talent and that ambition that isn't fulfilled because of the poverty and deprivation in which people are living. It is wealth that should belong to the majority and not a tiny minority. Labour is the party that will put the interests of the majority first, while the Tories only really care about those who already have so much. That is why we will prove the establishment experts wrong and change the direction of this election. Because the British people know that they are the true wealth creators, held back by a system rigged for the wealth extractors. Theresa May will insist that this is an election about Brexit. She will try to downplay the issues that affect people's lives every day, and instead turn the election into an ego trip about her own failing leadership and the machinations of the coming negotiations in Brussels. It is only Labour that will focus on what kind of country we want to have after Brexit. In the coming weeks, Labour will lay out our policies to unlock opportunities for every single person in this country. We will focus on giving people real control over their own lives and make sure that everyone reaps a just reward for the work they do. We will no longer allow those at the top to leech off those who bust their guts on 0 hours contracts, or those forced to make sacrifices to pay their mortgage or to pay their rent. Instead of the country's wealth being hidden in tax havens, we will put it in the hands of the people of Britain, as they're the ones who earned it. In this election, Labour will lead the movement to make that change. We will build a new economy worthy of the 21st century, and we'll build a country for the many, not the few.